Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. Happy Friday, everybody. SMU Basketball gets a win over Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and the football team is on their way to face Boston College Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. We break down some final thoughts on SMU BC, as well as SMU's win over Texas A&M Corpus Christi last night on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, which starts right now.
Remember when your biggest worry was finding parking at Dallas Hall? Now it's protecting your home, your car, maybe even that first business. That's where Northwest Insurance Agency comes in. Exclusive coverage designed by Mustangs for Mustangs who've galloped into the real world. Protect what you've built and move forward with confidence, because once a Mustang, always moving forward.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at onthePonyExpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
That's right. Happy Friday, everybody. Look, SMU Basketball did get the win Thursday night in Moody Coliseum to improve to 2-0, and they would have liked to had a little insurance policy on that one to make sure all was well, because at one point Texas A&M Corpus Christi had an 8-point lead. But we break down how the Mustangs fought back in that in just a moment. But of course, do want to remind you guys, Mark Villasana, Northwest Insurance Agency, is who you need to call. 214-352-5656. Give them a call today. And look, if you're looking for any plans ahead of SMU football's game up at Boston College, make sure you head over to Manny's if you're staying in Dallas. 4 locations across DFW, and you could have a nice glass of Socorro tequila there with you, whether you want it in your margarita or whether you want it neat or on the rocks. Socorro tequila, great way to spend an SMU game day. So make sure you check out those options and say queso when you dine with our friends at Manny's. All right, SMU and Manny's, at Manny's, when you say queso gets you 10% off your food at any of their 4 locations across DFW. So let's jump in here. SMU gets a 69-58 win over Corpus Christi. Let's knock that, part out. They did win the basketball game. They did get on the right side of things after what was a really rough start to this basketball game. SMU found itself down 8 points at one point in the first half. The team had missed a bunch of layups, really just not executing at a high level in this one, and that allowed Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I've got to come up with a TAMCC to shorten it up, but they came out and played a really nice game. They really stepped up. Whole team effort there by Texas A&M Corpus Christi to build that first half lead. I mean, a bunch of different players scored, and they really had SMU off balance. And SMU shot 36, just a hair over 36% in the first half. You had Samet Yigitolo led the team with 10 of his 12 points in the first half, and that was after he really started out pretty slow there, but got to the line. Once again, had a nice night at the line. SMU shot 82% from the free throw line on the night. Samet Yigitolo finishes with a double-double. I know he can be at times certainly frustrating to watch with some of the I mean, not to use this term, but layups that SMU basketball gets, but he is continuing to still develop. I think he's a great example of how this staff develops. He's finished both games this season. Again, lesser competition here. Everybody's not perfect. Everybody on this basketball team needs to kind of get back into the groove of things over the course of this next week, in particular with Murray State and Butler coming up on the schedule. So the competition level rises. But for Samet, I think he's shown enough now that if this is what he can deliver on a nightly basis, SMU is going to have a chance to be really good this year. And that's where it is kind of tough to judge when they are playing this lesser competition. But I think what was probably the most disappointing piece of the evening for SMU is they did not get great nights from Boopy Miller. They did not get great nights from Jaron Pierre Jr. as far as shooting the basketball goes. SMU for the night shot 36% from the floor. But Texas A&M Corpus Christi finished 29% from the floor. It really is a game where SMU was able to control it in the sense that defensively, this was one of the best games SMU's played in a minute. When you look at their lineup and what they've been rolling out, SMU not having Jaden Toombs is certainly going to impact this rotation and how they kind of move people in and out of this lineup. They played a bunch of players once again. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players saw the floor. In the season opener, SMU played a bunch of different lineup combinations. That's what these first two games were for. I think now when you see a Murray State and a Butler coming up on the schedule, that's where SMU can now maybe start to say, okay, we've got 2 games of experience with this team. Sam Walters, for example, fouls out in the season opener. He added two points on the night in 18 minutes. He's starting in place of Jaden Toombs. What SMU is not going to do is just roll out a 4-guard lineup with BJ Edwards, Boopy Miller, Corey Washington, and Jaron Pierre Jr., and then have Samet in there. I just don't think that's how Andy Enfield wants to play. And it's not something that they're going to do unless they're kind of in a dire situation. So when you look at this lineup, Sam Walters starts the game, 18 minutes, 1 for 4 from the floor. He right now is not somebody that I feel like you can really rely on to give you much of anything. But the good thing is Mitchell Holmes has had an opportunity to step up, and he's done that in these first 2 games in limited minutes. He's been productive. He's not really been a problem for this basketball team. So maybe that leads to him getting some more opportunities. But then you look at the return of Jaden Toombs at some point, whether it be late November or early December, and you're going to have a front court that you feel a little bit better about. But SMU held Texas A&M Corpus Christi to that 28.8 point per field goal percentage. That's the best field goal percentage for an SMU team since holding Evansville to 28.8 back in the 2022 non-conference portion of the season. So again, lesser competition, but you like to see that type of defensive effort. And in the second half, that's when I think SMU really stepped its game up. They were able to really control things and step up to the point where, they let Sheldon Williams, get loose and go for 12 that half, but they were kind of battling back bit by bit. They got down 8 in the first half and then ended up, going on a run to, get the lead at the half, the 4-point lead, which should have been 7, but they allowed a late 3-pointer to close this one to a 4-point lead. And then from there, SMU was able to control it, and they never trailed the rest of the way. They did get tied up, but they did not trail there with 4:19 to go. Again, Sheldon Williams had himself a little bit of a night there for A&M, but it's the non-conference. SMU's playing a bunch of teams over there or playing a bunch of players over there right now, trying to figure things out. But, I think for me, trying to figure out who can give you some things during this non-conference slate is the most important piece of this puzzle for SMU basketball. They are accomplishing that goal. Next week, the competition ramps up a good bit. Like I said, with Murray State coming to town, with Butler next Saturday. So a lot to learn about this team as that competition level rises up. But did want to kind of lead off with the basketball talk before we get into some SMU football. Do want to remind you guys, with all the travel issues that everybody's been having, statusjet.com is a great way to solve those problems by booking private with our friends over there. You mentioned on the Pony Express, you get a discount on a round trip flight, and they'll hook you up with the service and level of attention to detail that you'd expect from a private jet company. So again, get a discount on your round trip flight when you mention us at On the Pony Express. And also, if you ever really needed to drive all the way somewhere, you want to do it in a new vehicle, do it with our friends at the Thomas Auto Group. Head up 75 to McKinney. Check out any of their 4 dealerships: Ford, Mitsubishi, Subaru, and Volkswagen. I did that out of order this time. Usually I've been rolling with it, but I think for me, the employee pricing discount is a great option for those of you who are in the market for a new vehicle. But if you need to get your car tuned up, the holidays are right around the corner. Head over to the Thomas Auto Group and check out their service department, especially Bob Thomas Ford right there. Get in and out. They can take care of you in a great way there. Great waiting area. So check them out, thomasautogroup.com, and make your appointment today to get your car tuned up. They'll take care of you, and mention that On the Pony Express sent you, and they will take great care of you. That's all I can say. Let's jump into some final conversations around this football team going into the Boston College game. This is the definition of, here we go again, trap game, right? Coming off in a big emotional win over Miami in overtime. You have to give it everything you can to do that. You're banged up, you're beat up. And then for SMU as a whole, they are going to probably be without a couple of players, is my guess. The availability report did come out Thursday night. Here's the list when it comes to guys who are questionable. Link Rhodes, Terry Webb, Chris Johnson Jr., Marcellus Barnes, Cam Robertson, Kyron Chambers, Jalen Davis Robinson, which is actually an upgrade for him from last week's availability report. Logan Parr, RJ Maryland. Probable, Jordan Hudson, Romello Brinson, DJ Warner, Kevin Jennings, Tyron Polley, Wade McSparron, and Josh Bates. So kind of a laundry list of guys who are certainly in the injury room and getting medical treatment and all of those things to get ready to play. A lot of these guys, for those of you who aren't at ontheponyexpress.com, a lot of these guys will play. It is just a recognition that they are battling through it. And if they wake up on game day, or if they woke up on Thursday or Friday morning and it was not looking good, SMU would probably have to pull them, from being able to play. So we'll be watching this very closely, and we'll kind of share some of the details we have and are able to have on this one at ontheponyexpress.com. So make sure you subscribe for just $1 for your first week. Just signed a new contract extension, so really excited to be doing this for many, many more years with you guys at ontheponyexpress.com. That got finalized this week, so Rhett and I are tied at the hip for a minute, so to speak, but we'll continue to do what we do at ontheponyexpress.com, and that is build you guys a great team to cover your Mustangs and give you guys great content, both written and on the podcast front. So really appreciative of all you guys who have subscribed to ontheponyexpress.com. That's different from the YouTube or the podcast. That's where you can find us chatting all day on the message board. So injury-wise, SMU is banged up. They are in a tough spot here. They're going to have to find a way this week to really get through this game, because on the other side of it is the bye week, which SMU has that carrot hanging over this game. Win this one, get to the bye, and you can then sit back, relax for a minute, decompress before you go into what is a heck of a 2-game stretch. You got to play Louisville and you got to play Cal. But this week it's about Boston College. Boston College's red bandana game dedicated to the memory of Wells Crowther, one of the heroes on 9/11. And it's going to be a jacked up, emotional game for them. And they're leaning towards Grayson James, who Bill O'Brien said, he feels like he gives them the best chance to win this week against SMU, just like he gave BC the best chance to win against SMU in Dallas last year. The Dallas native played really well last year against the Mustangs. And now, despite them kind of rotating quarterbacks and doing all this stuff, they're going to give him the ball, Grayson James, and see if they can make some things happen. He's thrown over his last 3 games with 2 starts. He's thrown 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So this SMU defense, kind of similar to Wake Forest, this BC offense struggling. They do not have an identity. They really do not do much of anything as far as production goes. They have a tough time moving the football as a whole. They were in it against Notre Dame. They pieced together that third quarter drive that Rhett Lashley mentioned earlier this week. That is a really, really kind of key calling card there for them as far as how to possess the ball. 21 plays, 11 minutes of game clock eaten up. But if you're SMU, you've got to be on alert for some turnover opportunities here. Grayson James's BC offense with Lewis Bond at wide receiver, it just doesn't really have some of the key pieces to kind of make some noise this weekend in Boston. So for me, I think this is an even better matchup for SMU, because you're not dealing with a QB run type of threat that they had to prepare for against Wake Forest. Grayson James, Dylan Lonergan. Dylan probably a little bit more athletic with his baseball background, but as a whole, I think BC, their offense is really kind of struggling at this point. And defensively, BC, that's where SMU is going to have to, I don't know, show that last road trip against Wake Forest that was an aberration. And I wrote, that's crazy that I not to pat myself on the back or anything, because if I predicted all this stuff, I'd be on a beach somewhere with a house and enjoying all the money I've made from betting. But I don't bet. But what I did right after that Wake Forest game was, SMU has a chance to show that let me see what the title, the Crossroads, rise up for a strong finish or remain this mysterious aberration. And that question still applies to what SMU is this year. Are they going to take advantage of the gift that they earned by beating Miami, that they are in this ACC championship race, that they can go to Charlotte, that they can find a way to get into the college football playoff? All of that is in front of them. Or are they going to let last week's win over Miami trickle into this game at BC and cost them everything by falling to a 1-8 Boston College team? I don't think SMU is going to do that. I think they learned their lesson. I'm trying to think of where this type of a performance against Wake Forest was similar to maybe early in the Rhett Lashley era as he was starting to build this program up. The closest thing I can kind of come up with is that game against East Carolina when they went over there to Greenville, Thursday night game, blackout crowd. Obviously, East Carolina was really struggling that year, but East Carolina gave them a game. And then from there, SMU took off with Preston Stone and really started rolling. And that was a really fun game to go to. I actually liked Greenville a lot, but SMU was able to get out of there with kind of this sleepy win where they scored 17 in the fourth quarter after East Carolina, made it a game at half, and they got out of there. Preston Stone really developed in that game, and I think learned a lot late in it, kind of closing that game out. I believe maybe Isaiah Wacobia had a pick six. Let me see. Jonathan McGill. Damn. How can I forget that? Our guy, Jonathan McGill, who will be on the After Stang show, assuming all goes well, Saturday at Boston College. He'll be leading that one again for us up in Chestnut Hill. He returns an interception that kind of helps ice that game. But SMU learned a lot from that one, and they went on to have the season they did, rolling through that conference play, and it kind of clicked. And that wasn't a loss, but it sure felt like one. I mean, just kind of the way SMU played on the road against a team that, I think East Carolina might have fired their offensive coordinator at some point during that year. Maybe it was that game that led to it, but SMU was able to get that win and then go on a roll. Because I was at the point at that game where, at halftime, I was like, I don't know if Preston Stone could do this. He had a rough first few starts, and then he found his footing in conference play, and the rest is history, and SMU's kind of been rolling ever since. But that loss at Wake Forest, kind of maybe the Power 4 equivalent of that East Carolina game. Maybe it was the wake-up call that they needed to get on track and make this thing happen. So I'll be interested to see how SMU responds this week against Boston College. Do they treat Boston College like they did, I believe, Temple that 2023 season? So they went on, they got that win at East Carolina, and then they went back home, I believe, and they beat up on Tulsa. No, they went right back to Temple after that. So then they beat up on Temple, and then they beat up on Tulsa. Obviously, you can't compare the next game, to what SMU faced against Miami, but can you see the wheels all start turning together and SMU takes advantage of a BC team that I think is beaten down emotionally? They gave everything to beating Notre Dame. They couldn't get it done. And maybe that will is lost. Maybe they will have the will of a Wells Crowther behind them that gives this game that kind of close, hard-fought mentality that you would kind of expect BC to play with. And we'll kind of see where it goes. But SMU Boston College, this is a really interesting matchup because of that emotional factor of the Wells Crowther game. SMU, according to BetMGM, still favored by 10.5 in this one. I know the line's kind of moved around a little bit. I think that could maybe be a little bit of SMU's injuries situation, but the weather's clearing up. SMU should be in good shape here from not dealing with rain and cold and things like that. So we'll all keep our fingers crossed for that since we're traveling up there. But I think for SMU, got an opportunity to take care of business. They have to this week, get to the bye, and probably most importantly, the offense, hey, finish a game like you finished against Miami. Do it again. Keep building your confidence, and then you can really have, I think, everything not settled because Rhett Lashley and the staff do a great job of continuing to develop in November, but you have that final kind of carrot before this portion of the season is done where you could say, look at us. We finished. We got to the bye. Now let's go play 2 key games and let's see what happens and see if we can sneak into the ACC championship. All SMU can do is focus on itself. I think that Wake Forest game helped them do that. And it was a reason why they were able to fight against Miami and come away with the win. So they're going to have to fight through some adversity here with some of the injuries that SMU has, but a really golden opportunity for the Mustangs to get this thing going. So do want to remind you guys as well about our friends at OPW Solutions. OPW Solutions is a great friend of the show. AJ Crow, an SMU alum, runs the show over there, family-owned business, and they can help you out with your full-service commercial needs, whether it be the landscaping aspect, whether it be power washing, whether it be painting your parking lots or hanging your Christmas lights. OPW Solutions has that full service kind of commercial services world to take care of you. They're fully insured. They're bonded, many years of experience in this industry. And they're now in Oklahoma. They're in Arkansas. They're expanding in 2026 as well. So really exciting time for AJ and his business. So make sure you guys have them lined up for your company to get those Christmas lights hung. I mean, that is just such a easy thing to do for OPW Solutions. You can give them a call today at 214-444-3305. And we appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast and All Access AM as well. Our Monday, Wednesday, Thursday morning show now that is live 7 to 8 a.m. Central on our YouTube channel, where you can find us breaking down all the ACC news and notes, starting to ramp things up on the basketball side of things there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to the channel when you can to get more of that. So let's wind down with this. SMU entering this bye week, and I'm not looking ahead from a game perspective. I'm looking ahead from a what's next for this football team as far as recruiting kind of mindset. We'll have the recruiting show on Monday as well, breaking all of that down. We'll focus a lot on recruiting next week with the bye. But for this SMU football team, it is, and I know Rhett Lashley said it this week in his press conference, the staff is not necessarily focusing on some of these things, but we are starting to see some of the coaching carousel kind of heat up a little bit. And the rumor mill is going to be flying around transfers with some of these programs. You look at Arkansas, you look at LSU, you look at Virginia Tech and Penn State. A lot of these programs that are missing at Florida, missing head coaches and looking for new guys. All of these programs have players that people want on their roster. And it's really important to note that SMU's recruiting staff, they are doing their due diligence on flip targets. They're doing their due diligence on the actual players on the team. And I asked kind of Rhett Lashley about, when he got his contract extension, some of the things that they wanted as far as alignment. And he gave a great answer, I thought, just as far as, really looking at, this university kind of pushing itself in the right direction and kind of talking all of that out. So I think he really knows what he wants as far as the extension goes. And I think for him, getting that extension locked in allows his recruiting staff to work through all of the things that they need as a program from a roster perspective, but it also lets all of these people that are working under Rhett Lashley and this coaching staff on the recruiting department side, on the scouting department side, on the roster management side of things, it allows them peace of mind that they don't have to worry about any of that outside noise. And, Rhett brought up rev share, he brought up NIL, and he brought up facilities and all of that as the pieces that always have to have alignment. And I think, yes, a lot has been made of Rhett Lashley's salary and the improvement there, and that's certainly deserved. Especially compared to the market. I think if things keep going the way they are, he's going to be a great value. Obviously, he'll keep being rewarded if things continue to go the way they are, as far as getting big wins and getting back on track with, winning in non-conference games. Like, you look at the Baylor TCU games to get back on track there next year. But the amount of work that this university's administration does towards the alignment of football being, well-funded, well-resourced, all of those things, that was probably the biggest piece of this puzzle. The salary piece is kind of straightforward because of the market and the coaching carousel that everybody's in. But now the resources of building out this staff in certain ways, and Rhett Lashley kind of mentioned, the look around the league and kind of look around the country and, make sure staff is kind of where we need it to be. That's that next step. And each piece of Rhett Lashley's tenure has involved big commitments in some of those areas, right? You look at when he got hired, the Gary Weber end zone complex, getting shovels in the ground. That was kind of it's personal type of thing to Sonny Dykes, but getting that in the ground. Obviously, then his extension after the AAC championship, moving him into, or right before the AAC championship, moving into that next realm of ACC salaries that was competitive. You look at what happened there at that time with Scott Simons as well last year around the ACC championship, being retained, and kind of the work that went in to do that, because he was, a huge commodity last year as well. And then building out some of the recruiting staff opportunities. I mean, SMU's on-campus recruiting staffer group has been massively expanded. I think the next world is building out that full-blown analyst world as well, kind of continuing to reward those people so that they stay longer. There's a lot of people that have been on staff here that probably could or should be in full-time staff roles, but because of Rhett Lashley's extension, they can kind of keep doing that. And then the next step, obviously, is going to be Ford Stadium at some point here. But, all of these things are continuing to be aligned under this new administration. So a lot of the work next week is going to be that prep work by that recruiting staff, scouting department, doing all those things, making that final push for flip targets to come in for the Louisville game. Again, we'll have you covered on that at ontheponyexpress.com. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a good game time for just all of us to kind of finish things out with senior day. But SMU continuing to do all the things that they need to do to be ready to roll with the bye week approaching. So, look, guys, this is kind of a down and dirty Friday one. Wanted to kind of get this one out to you guys. Do want to remind you guys one more time to check out our friends at Sportsmo. Sportsmo is a way that you can impact SMU athletics right here, right now, making micro pledges to support the Mustangs. So learn more about Sportsmo and, check out what they're doing in the space, as well as our friends at Horn Legend, doing great work in the pullover space. You can get free shipping by using code PONY for free shipping at hornlegend.com. So check them out. And of course, download the Sportsmo app at sportsmo.org to download the app. That's Sportsmo, M-O, to download the Sportsmo app. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little Friday podcast. We'll get into a groove with Dre Foster as well. I want to get his thoughts on Monday, as SMU basketball will have kind of a full week under its belt. We'll preview next week's round of games as well with Dre. So I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, and we'll catch you guys next time on the After Stang Show, Saturday afternoon, live from Chestnut Hill, as SMU takes on BC at 11 a.m. Central. So thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.